Good evening. It's time again for our visit. We're going to make this a fun show today. If the opening shot looked a little blurry, well, that's because it was a ghost. So we was kind of going to share some ghost stories with you today. My guest is Barbara, and you do know Barbara quite well. That's because we do a lot of things together,
That's
so
right.
you would actually be the expert for that. And today is what day?
Let's see, March 9th.
March 9th, yeah.
Yes,
We had decided that we was going to give the date of the taping because sometimes we talk about something and then a few days later it is on national television. So welcome and thank you for joining us this evening. And before I get going, I wanted to say something really nice about the staff that we have here. No matter what we want to present, they're always willing to go, and they're just wonderful, and without them, we couldn't really bring you these weird shows.
That's true.
True, no?
Yes,
Yeah,
true.
and we usually run out of time, so I thought I'd put that up in the front.
That's good.
We also have to address something else before we get to the ghosts. In 1997, when I wrote my book, I visited the Hopi Reservation and stayed at a gentleman's house. His name is Thomas Binyakia. And he was not an elder. He was one of the original messengers
Right.
that had been given information by other sources. And he chose to leave this earth on the 2nd of February. And so we wanted to acknowledge him, and I will forever remember him sitting on his porch, just combing that beautiful long hair that he had. And so, Thomas, we wish you well, our friend. The other thing that's important today is we heard a rumor, maybe, about Richard Hoagland.
Yes. He's supposed to have had a massive heart attack.
Last Saturday.
Right.
Okay. If this rumor is not founded, then we apologize in advance.
Absolutely.
But just in case it isn't, we need to say a few things about
yes,
that.
it could be very mysterious. It could be biological, of course, but it seems very coincidental that he would have this, since he was been recently warned about some of the things he's been bringing to the light, so to speak. Yeah.
And for those of you that's not familiar with Richard, he's the gentleman that deciphered the face on Mars. He made the connection between the face on Mars and the pyramids. He specializes, and here's that big word, geometry, no?
Yeah, geometry.
Yeah, sacred I can say it twice.
Sacred geometry.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so we, as a whole, we owe him a lot, and here again, we wish you well, Richard, and a speedy recovery.
I have a little story about that. I forgot to tell you even. When I was taking my class with a man named Dr. Johnson for the hypnotherapy, he was a very close friend of Richard Hoagland's. And when they first got these pictures from Mars, he had sent Dr. Johnson some pictures of them. There was also a picture of, which they never tell you and never show you, a picture of the symbol for man and woman and a frog, picture of a frog there.
Really?
That Richard sent. So they've never shown those again, but we saw them. He showed the whole class this picture, so someone's been there.
And oddly enough, Mr. Hoagland and Thomas Binyakia, they did a lot of things together.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. We watched well, we had talked about it before it happened. You know, we made people aware of that this was going to air, the opening of the tomb in Egypt, and we were very disappointed.
Yes, we were. We were totally diverted from what they were originally going to do. The archaeologist, the Egyptian archaeologist, who seems to be in total control of the archaeology in Egypt now, won't allow anybody to think anything else is there except that the ancient Egyptians did all of this themselves, which we know is not true, but until they're ready to open themselves a little bit more, we may not know, really find out for a while.
Yeah, and for those of you that visit regularly, you have noticed that sometimes it seems I jump from one thing to the next. So what does Richard Hoagland and Egypt have to do with one another? Well, it just so happened he was on that show. And
yes, he was.
That's how I got there.
Yeah.
And
he was talking about the pyramids on Mars and Sidonia, and he tried to bring some of that to light too.
And there was a helicopter in the hieroglyphics.
Yes, they showed a little known spot, which I think is pretty ironic. It had a helicopter. It looked like a modern helicopter, and it also had a craft that they figured sort of skimmed the Earth. And then they had one that was extraterrestrial, I believe, that was flew outside of the atmosphere. So, yeah.
So, in my opinion, that was the only valid thing in the whole special. So that credit goes to Richard.
Yep, me too.
Okay, having said all that, this is a ghost story.
Yes.
So I think we ought to get to the ghosts. This is the spirit wolf that we make reference to so often. In myself, we sometimes are called by people to come and do some investigating. Sometimes it's a business, and sometimes it's a regular, well, not a regular person, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
Yeah. And I wanted to share this with you on video because this was an extensive investigation that we had, but as usual, it didn't work. The audio messed up, the video messed up. And so I still can't introduce you to Spirit Wolf. You viewed it at one time?
Yes. The hotel you're talking about
Florence
in Florence?
Hotel
Yes,
in Florence, Colorado.
Yes,
and to the friends in Canyon City, that's right in your backyard, so I'm sure you know stories too. We had needed to go to Florence, Colorado to visit someone, and we went into this beautiful hotel by accident. By coincidence, we stayed there anyway. And we got some very, very good footage there. What happened when they allowed us to film this, there was a picture of Charlie Chaplin on the wall. And first we thought the batteries were dead, like they sometimes do. And then Spirit Wolf said, well, take a still shot of it. And I did that. And I really wanted to show you the video and the shot, but forget the video, it didn't come out. So what I can share with you is the ghost, and I forgot his name, that stepped right in front of the picture, and that explained the blurriness. I don't know how I can do this, but he's standing right here. I was so obsessed with the whole thing, I went back 3 weeks later, and it turned out the grandson of this man had came to visit, and he recognized his father immediately. So we did a very professional investigation there. The people verified whatever we said, and Spirit Wolf didn't want that to be seen because she was in her robe.
Yes, well.
Yeah.
I guess she got her wish, though.
She got her wish.
Certainly, we couldn't seem to get it on the...
Yeah, we just couldn't share that with you.
Couldn't do it.
It was also Spirit Wolf that investigated, she called it Case 301.
Haunting 301, she
Haunting
said.
301, the opening shot that you saw. I don't know too much detail about it except...
Well, the lady that took the picture, she took it on a Polaroid camera, from a Polaroid camera. She had just bought the new big screen TV, wasn't plugged in yet, and she snapped this picture. And pretty soon, this man, the head of the man, face of the man that you saw was showed up pretty eerily there. And they'd been having poltergeist activity in the house, things moving around and everything. So she called Spirit and asked her if she could come and see if she could help send this man to where he belonged. And she did go back
Yeah,
to the house. And
she left 2 days after
Yeah.
I had been there, and then she left 2
Yeah.
days after.
And they've reported that he has gone, that he hasn't bothered him anymore.
It wasn't a good experience, I don't
No,
think.
the man was, I guess, not a very nice man, and he had some very bad habits. And so I just don't think he wanted anybody in his house, and he was trying to run the people out, but it didn't work that well for him. Yeah.
So we could safely say it was not Spirit Wolf's favorite hunting.
No, it wasn't, definitely.
Okay, let's see, there's that. And then maybe we should explain why that happens, how ghosts come about.
Well, yeah, I think we should, because a lot of people, I think, misinterpret ghosts.
Exactly.
We talk a lot about different dimensions, and the dimension that ghosts are in are slightly separated from our dimension. That's why if you're psychic or even intuitive, slightly intuitive, a lot of times you can see ghosts, because the dimension they're in is not that separated from ours. It's sort of like a membrane, they say. And they're not quite in the spirit world, and they're in the spirit dimension, and they're not quite in the physical dimension, so they're in between. When they finally do go over to the spirit dimension, then they're farther removed from us, and you have to be a clairvoyant or very psychic to see them after that. Usually, that's what I've been told, and by spirit myself. So.
Well, for those of you that watched the movie Ghost, that was a good example where you could see, like myself, I act as a death walker sometimes. And what that consists of, we help people go to the light. And usually when you do that, you can actually see the spirit lift out of the shell or the body, and you can see it leaving. And in the movie Ghost, what had happened, he stepped out of himself, and the lady just didn't notice it at the time.
That's right.
And then, as a result, he went to try to get someone's attention, which was Whoopi Goldberg. And of course, it kind of upset her a little bit there for a minute. But that's about the best description I could give.
Yes, yeah, that's a good one. That is a good description of ghosts. There have been ghosts who've shown up in movies, like the one in 3 Men and a Baby. There was a ghost of a little boy that showed up in there. He didn't show up until they released the movie, but they did check back on it and found out that he had lived in the apartment and fell out that window he was materializing by. So, I mean, you can see them. I mean, and sometimes they're extremely substantial. You can touch them, or they can touch objects. And
yeah, which brings me to Carl. We did a story at the Cooney Mansion on location, and we had taken a gentleman with us, remember? And he was really rattled.
Yes, because someone sat in his lap, right?
Somebody sat in his lap, and he was just not the same for
some
time.
Yeah, it kind of shook him up a bit. Right.
And so they are physical. They are physical.
They can be very physical, very physical.
I've had experiences where spirits talk to me on the phone. Now, I didn't realize it immediately. I had a friend named Larry Butler. He was a police officer, and he had moved away to California. And I traveled to California quite often, so one day I ran into somebody that gave me his phone number. And so when I came home, I called him and I said, well, I'm sorry I missed you this time, but when I come back in 2 months, I'd like to visit with you. And he said, I always felt bad that I didn't say goodbye to you, because I didn't see him when when he made that move from Washington to California. And he said, it'd really be nice to see you. And he said, well, I'm going to have a new phone number. And he gave me this phone number, and he said, it's unlisted. And if you can't find me there, I'll hang out at the studio. Now, even though he was a policeman, he always wanted to be a drummer for Jimmy Smith. That's a jazz musician from the 60s and 70s. So I said, okay. And so one day I called him, you know, and I talked to him for quite a while. And then a few days later, my son came and he told me to sit down because he had some bad news. Well, it turned out my friend Larry Butler had died. And so I called the number he had given me, and his daughter answered, and I told her how bad I felt about it, and would she like for me to come to the funeral? Well, she totally freaked out. I mean, there is no better word than just totally freaked out. And I said, well, what's the matter? And she says, well, my father died 4 months ago. And I said, I don't think so. I just talked to him a couple of weeks ago. And she says, no. You know, she got real freaked out. And it just so happened the phone bill had came that day. So I told her, I'll call you right back. And I looked at the phone bill, and sure enough, I had been billed for 17 minutes. So I called her back, and I said, you know, how did you get this phone number? And she says, well, that's another thing. Number is unlisted. And I got it after my dad died. But guess what? He had given it to me.
Yep.
And then she realized what had happened. And so she said, if I run into him again, to tell him they loved him. You know.
There's been quite a few people reported being called on the phone by people who had just recently passed. Ida Lupino, if you ever heard of her? She was called by her, was her grandfather, I think, when he passed, and he called her up and talked to her. She was quite young at the time. Then, of course, Edison was working on a telephone to speak to the spirit world. You know, they thought he was insane, but he said there was he could do it, and he didn't do it because he got made fun of so much. He stopped, but he said he did have one that he could talk to the spirit world. So I mean, you know, there's been a lot of things that have communication that has happened. And people are now, since they're being more open about everything, I guess we've got the audio, video thing going with...
Yeah, you pick up things in audio.
Yeah.
We had some time changes, and we covered that on a show. It was called Can You Tell Me the Time? The night my mother passed. And since then, she has called, and she doesn't say anything, but she plays classical music. Which it sounds a little eerie, but I recognize the type of music, so I'm always happy when she calls me.
That's nice.
Then another lady called Gypsy Hurley that we talked about at one time, she sends dreams to people. But not one person. It's like this one dream, and people have different pieces of it.
Yeah.
Actually, yesterday was her birthday, so happy birthday, Gypsy.
Yeah, happy birthday, Gypsy.
My Aunt Lisa, I called my mother one time, and I realized it was not my mother, it was my aunt. And I wasn't her favorite.
Yeah, she played some tricks on you, though, for a while there,
Yes,
too,
she
didn't
did.
she? Yeah,
Yes,
she did.
And so I just finally made her aware that we live in the physical world, and I do pay a phone bill, and I hung up on her, so she didn't call me back. Well, she showed up the night she passed away. There was, I don't know if you was there that night.
I think I was there afterwards because I think you told me about it. Yeah.
There was a group of people there, and one of the gentlemen, he just kept looking like that. And I said, well, what do you see? And he said, well, I don't know. He said, there's this woman running through here, and it turned out to be my aunt. You know.
Right.
Maybe we want to play some clips first, and then
Sure.
we kind of, because we can talk about this all night. You know?
Yeah, right. I know. That's true.
So let's see, we went to Cosmopolis and taped a ghost, not really a ghost story, but at the Cooney Mansion, we visited with Judy Lohr, and that you've met in the meantime. And she was telling us some stories, and after we left there, we went to Marge's ceramic shop. And they had called me because they had a ghost. Right. And we went there, took a lady named Carrie with me, and we did a little investigating. So we located him, and I'm going to play that interview that we did, Barbara and I, first, and then I will expand on it a little bit. And sometimes when you play these videos, they get a little distorted. The interview seemed just fine, but I need to say that just in case.
Yes.
So if we could please play that interview with the audio, and we'd listen to Mark.
All the time, because he doesn't like the kilns in the back room get too hot for him. So he turns on the water in the bathroom, he turns on the water up front. Alex has hit me a couple times.
Oh, really?
Yes. Once when I was back by the kilns, and he really let me have it on the back. And and when I turned around, because there was only two of us back there and we were talking face to face, and then all of a sudden I had this big whap on my back, and the girl I was back there with says, "What's happened to you?" And I says, "I got hit." And there was nobody else there but her and I. And when she turned me around, I had on a black sweatshirt, and it had a handprint on my back with the ceramic dust.
That's right, and you made him a T-shirt?
No, did I make him a T-shirt?
Yeah, didn't you have a T-shirt that said Alex on it?
I did, yeah.
Yeah,
we had
you
one
did.
made after
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But he cleans some greenware for
He
you,
cleans
too.
greenware. He loves my daughter.
Mhm.
Loves my daughter. And we had all this greenware to clean one day, and she was down from Seattle. And I had it all in the back room for this one store, and I would bring it out like 6 plates or 6 bowls, and I would stack them, and I knew that they needed to be done. And she would pick one up, and she would clean it, and she would go to pick up the next one, and it would be done. And we kept doing that. And after about the first couple times, I checked every piece before I brought it out to make sure that it needed to be cleaned. And he's continued to do it all afternoon.
I think that's how I ended up with the cup. All the cups were set out, remember? And then I ended up with a cup that was finished the
Right.
night before and had a
Right.
fingerprint
That
on
he-
it.
yeah.
Yeah, I do have one of those cups, yeah.
Yeah, he was finishing people's pieces for him for a
Mhm.
while. He quit doing that. I'm not too sure why he quit doing that. What you think?
I believe he got more comfortable after you moved. I think originally he was noticeable because you had your oven somewhere else, remember? You expanded or something?
No,
Yeah,
actually,
we took out a wall.
we had our tables were in the back room, and he was much more evident back there
Yeah.
than he has been
Yeah,
here.
yeah, that's true. He's
But I
back
think
there
once
a
they
lot more.
acknowledged him, then he felt more like he was accepted.
Well, I think once he found out we were going to be friendly,
And we weren't afraid.
right, we weren't afraid, or that he was
And-
fine.
yeah.
But my daughter, he loves my daughter, and she was here another day, and she said, "Can I have a Pepsi?" And I said, "Sure, get 50 cents out of the drawer and get it out of the pop machine." And she got up to do it, and the Pepsi came out of the machine.
Did you say thank you?
Yeah, I mean, the machine is clear over on the other side of the
Yeah, I know.
building, and that's never, ever happened before or since. But whatever she wants, he'll do.
Yeah, well, we had kind of determined that he had at one time been a vagrant or something. He was living upstairs, and I believe he got beat, you know. And then later there was a fire, and you didn't really want to get rid of him because he wasn't ready to go. He needed to watch out for you. And then things just start burning next door, and so on and so on. And as we do on this, there's more fires, you know.
Yeah,
So he's fully protecting you.
yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't like the cats when the cats first came,
Mm.
did he?
I don't remember about the cats. He doesn't seem to bother the cats. Now, if Donna Jean brings her dog in here,
He won't go in that room.
the dog will not go back there. Will not go past this door. Absolutely refuses, but the cats don't seem to mind at all.
Yeah, I think that since the tables have come out here, there's been less noticeable activity at night,
Yeah.
because
Mildred went into the bathroom one day, and she was sitting there, and all of a sudden the toilet paper roll flew over her head.
Mm.
yeah, I've never felt comfortable in the bathroom
Yeah,
there either.
he's there a lot.
He's there lots of times.
And he scared Debbie. really bad. She, she used to work here, and remember you said
Yes,
he
I
did not
do.
like her? He was very mean to her, broke her toe. He used to fling the bands from the molds at her, and she'd be back there working by herself, and all of a sudden the drill would come on.
She probably rolled him in her other life.
That's,
My.
yeah.
Do tell.
We figured he must have known her before, that he did not like her, so she quit.
Yeah, but all in all, he's pretty content now. He got used to the cats,
Yeah,
and
she has been I think the only person that he has.
he didn't like him.
Right.
And then I
But
know
she didn't like him either. She was afraid.
Yeah, well, she didn't like him.
Right.
Yeah.
But the rest of us acknowledged the
She's
fact.
also the one that took down the wall.
exactly.
And that's when it all started, when she took the wall down.
Yeah.
So that might be why he didn't like her.
And originally, when you asked me to come down here, I thought it was 2 buildings with 1 roof, remember? And you said, no, this is the old Montgomery Ward building, and it's all one piece.
Yeah,
But we
next door
did
was.
go back there, and there was a little crack, and it is 2 buildings with 1
Yeah.
roof. Yeah, but all in all, he's been pretty happy, and
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I think he's very happy now.
yeah. And the lady left, and I know you was concerned about who was going to take her place.
Yeah, and she didn't believe us.
And somebody
took
fell out
her-
of the sky for you, remember?
Yes, yeah, and she didn't believe it until just this last year. And then she was in here working one day by herself, and the water kept going on. And she'd go turn it off. And she'd get back in, start working, the water would come on. She'd go turn it off. Yeah. She says, I now believe. So, yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, I've never felt that he was an evil
No.
spirit. I've always thought that he was playful spirit. And but I things would just happen. Things would fall off the shelf or fly. I saw things fly off the shelf. Paint jars just right across the room. For no
I've had the door come open all the way without there being wind.
She turned the kiln on sometime. Boy, that I know of.
He's turned the kiln off. Yeah, he does not like the heat. No. He-
Yeah, well, that's because his
He's-
fire experience, yeah.
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 So if I come in the morning, the kiln's been turned off, we know
Well,
that he's
Lily
done
had
it.
to freeze
Yeah.
some water back there for us.
So anyway, I'd like to thank you for your stories, ladies, and so you can get back to your painting, and you do a wonderful job, and we'll come down and see you again, and thank you for sharing that with our viewers. And if I go this way, there's a lady there I'm sure you'll recognize. Oh, hey, Barbara. Okay. Well, of course there was Barbara.
Yes.
And like you accuse me of putting everybody on a spot sometimes. Do I really do that?
Yeah. You do.
But
But that's okay.
But that's the fun of it,
That's
you know,
okay,
because
yeah.
when you rehearse something, then
It's not spontaneous, that's
it's
for
not
sure.
spontaneous. Exactly. Yeah. Now, this happens to be the cup that Alex made, and I don't know how close we can get to that, but it actually has a fingerprint here, and I'm going to hold it here for a while in case it takes a minute. And we got there one morning, and he had just finished that cup, so I guess that was his way of letting me know that he did appreciate our help.
Oh, yes.
We did go by the impressions that we usually do, and then after we told the story, we went back and historically verified some of the things.
Yes.
Originally, I thought there was 2 buildings with 1 roof, and they said no.
Right.
And it later turned out that the building had burned, and it was 2 buildings. There was maybe, how many inches is that?
Yeah, it's about 4 to 6 inches between.
At the most, between those 2 buildings. So,
Right.
but we knew we was on the right track. And the energy on that was not really
very good. And then eventually they did have some grass growing in the alley. Okay.
Yeah.
We had no pictures of that, only an interview. Now, I have a clip where we would like to show you the ghost again. Let me put that here. Mr. Cooney winked at us at the Cooney Mansion. I think he's everybody's favorite, so we're going to do Mr. Cooney again. Then after that comes a picture. It's also in Aberdeen at a restaurant in the vicinity of Marge's shop. And then we're going to rerun two of the pictures that came from the Hubble trading post that you've seen already. They were of Native Americans that had been painted.
Yes.
And needed to leave. And we did tell the story on the show that we showed 241. Now, what happens when we copied this? Things got distorted, the voices, and so I don't have a clue what that's going to sound like. But we decided to show it with the audio anyway. Okay. So if we could maybe do that, please. Mr. Cooney's doing something. I don't know what he is. Oh my.
Good person
Uh-huh.
who, from a postcard that I had, copied the picture,
Uh-huh.
then she created the rest of it. And the picture above, that's his daughter, Josephina. And she had that on.
What was her last name?
Verdi.
She never married?
I think she passed away.
But did she have another name? Because earlier I heard Amabali and Adami. We didn't know what that was.
Josephina.
Uh-huh. Well, I will go to library. It doesn't have to be an original or anything. It's just when you get impressions, there goes again. Like, oh my, I can see it. I can see it through here. Sometimes people from the past even, they go right along with us, look out for us. So what was the reason you picked that particular subject?
Verdi?
Mm-hmm.
Because when I named the business, I was hesitating between Verdi or Parma. And Verdi is from Parma.
Can you want to come in now, Davis? Oh. This is the most active in this whole place so far. And when you leased this, everything was in a different place, right? What was there? Say like Mr. Verdi here. This one, Monica. This one is similar to Mr. Verdi. Wee. Oh, Jesus! I didn't mean that. No, I have a Verdi. I have a Mr. Verdi right here. Do you remember Mr. Verdi?
Yeah.
That's what we have here. This one was an old the old trading post that was sitting in the yard. The pictures that we have to show you. And one of the reasons we wanted to show that to you, to show the difference. Mm-hmm. Would you like to address that?
Okay, the pictures, usually when there's the energy there, it looks like it's, focusing in and out. It's called transfiguration. Mm-hmm. And usually the spirit is trying to make you see them in a in a different pose or different, either move their eyes or something. It's the energy that they're trying to focus on that picture. They want attention, obviously, for some reason, or they want to show you that they're still there.
Yeah, on that last one, the Native American, if you really look at it really close, he actually turned into a female a couple of times.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's possibly a past life that he had. He wanted to show, you know. Yeah, very definite energies there, though, when the film, when it fluctuates like that. Very active spirits around the area.
Now, when people come to us and say, I have a ghost in my house, sometimes it's not always a ghost, there are other things.
Yes, it could be the space where the house is that's either has spirits, or it can be the past intruding into the present. Other dimensions get mixed up in there sometimes. Portals open up, and it can be many different things. When you think you're being haunted, you might not be being haunted at all.
Then here's that word that always creeps back up, ETs.
AT, that could be extraterrestrial in origin, definitely. And I think they do create, sometimes I believe they create warps in the house so that they can use the energy to transfer people back and forth.
Just as Carol talked about that, where the lady abductee had a vortex in her house, and, and she would stick her hand in it, and it would just disappear.
Yeah.
So when people have activity in their house, or when you in general, when we enter a house and something doesn't feel good to us, that doesn't mean it doesn't belong where it is, because it's part of.
That's right. And it may not feel bad to anybody else but us.
Exactly.
Or it may not bad but strange to anyone else but us. It depends on, where you're at and who you're with. If it's someone who's called you because they're having a problem and something's got them freaked out, well then, it's good to go and see what it really is. I've put quite a few people's mind to rest that they're not being haunted. That a lot of times the past does, it just, it folds, and you can hear things from the past in a lot of places.
Yeah, like Preston said, here I am and here I am.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
We have time for one short little story, if you could think of one.
Animals.
Animals.
There's a lot of animals that come back in spirit and bring. They stay with their people and try to bring them joy and comfort. Cats are very good at it, staying around, especially if they like the place. All types of animals and nature spirits also, you can see if you're very lucky, I think. This is where we come into play with the other dimensions, and we think of ourselves as one-dimensional, but we are really living in many dimensions at once, so they do intrude on us sometimes.
Most of the Aboriginal people of the earth, they recognize the spirit world, and it's not a frightening thing. It's it's just a coexistence, and that's sort of where we want to take you, just to realize those things do exist, and there is really no reason to get really, really
frightened or upset
about it.
We've all journeyed there, and we've come back, and we've journeyed there again, and we'll come back again. So,
any suggestions how you could make yourself comfortable with that?
Well, if you can control your fears, and if you do need someone to talk to about it, we're available to talk to about it. Try not to be fearful, because you can misinterpret things through fear that you would normally, interpret that way if you weren't afraid.
But I felt you a couple of times where even I got rattled.
Oh, I know. Yeah, sometimes you can do that. That's
yeah,
true.
but there is someone that,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And share stories.
Pardon?
Share stories with
Oh,
your
yes,
friends. Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Don't be afraid to tell someone if you feel there's something there, because a lot of times people go, I must be crazy because, but that's probably not it at all. Most people aren't crazy. Share it with someone. Share it with someone, and chances are they've had some kind of an experience themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We should do a project where we go to a shopping mall and just ask people for their opinion.
Yeah.
Because
Sure.
people do come from all walks of life.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. We have gone to the poorest places to help people with spirits, and to the very wealthy places. So they don't, discern. They just they're where they are, and that's it.
I had an experience when I was stuck between those two buildings in Nashville. One of the gentlemen, he always wanted to challenge me. He thought I was of a negative type source. And but I was the only one that knew how to work a camcorder, so he had to give a speech. So he asked me to film it, and we went to this real old hotel. It had a restaurant in it. I think it's called Marais Boulay in Nashville, and I said, okay, I'll do that. And when we got done, they had 3 ghosts had went through his videotape, and he was very upset, and he was not the same after that, and just determined he wanted me to leave, We talked to the manager, and she said the building was 110 years old, and of course there were ghosts
Well,
there.
of course. He thought you brought them, though, with you. Probably why he got scared. Yeah.
I had named him Oliver. Because he was a little twisted occasionally.
That's a good one.
Yeah, but it was,
definitely.
It was not good. It was not good. And so buildings hold essence.
Well,
Essence,
it's not the building as much as the space, because
essence, no?
you can tear the building down and they'll still be there. You can rebuild it into a different thing altogether, and there's still the spirits will still be there. So they live totally in their own dimension.
Yeah.
They exist in their own dimension, and they see things the way they did when they passed. So whether you change the place or not, a lot of times you'll still have the haunting.
They're like interdimensional companions.
That's right, exactly. Yeah.
I'm more familiar with.
And a lot of times, if they do cause problems, you may want to get rid of them if you can. That's where people like Spirit Wolf and
Yeah, and you can kind of say, just kind of knock it off or something,
Yeah.
Do you interfere with televisions?
Oh yes, and a lot of tape recorders, they're very bad about that. Tape recordings, they'll sometimes interfere. The frequencies just don't match sometimes. I think that's why we have trouble recording some of them.
I've known cases where if you was in a car accident type situation where they would take over and drive for you.
Yes. Yep.
That's happened to me a couple of times where, I don't know how I got the car off the road and someone took over for me.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's a connection between ghosts and angels, but they sort of...
Well, I think that the angels are in a more... Well, they're in a different dimension than ghosts.
Celestial, yeah.
They're more of a celestial, than the ghosts are.
But a person could mistake an angel for a
You
ghost.
certainly could. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
I think that's where I'm going with that.
Yes.
Because in the Western world, we programmed to relate to good and evil, good and bad, and we have said this before that 2 and 2 used to be 2. I mean, 1 and 1 used to be 2, and I can't even count today. So who's here? And it's just not like that anymore.
No, it isn't. No. No, and I'm happy to say the scientists are beginning to figure that out too. So it kind of gives you more validity when the science world starts saying the same things we've been saying for 20 years,
what works for me, I take pictures, with people that have been, went out of my life, and I give them water, spirit like water. Just take a little crystal glass or something and put some water in it.
Yes.
And sometimes I've seen it change color, or it was just absorbed so quick that couldn't happen under normal
I've seen
circumstances.
it at your house, definitely.
Yeah. When my mother passed, we gave her cognac.
Yes.
Do you remember how big that glass was?
Yes.
Pretty good sized snifter,
Yes, was.
and it was
Gone.
gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we switched it to water.
So we figured she really enjoyed it. Yeah.
But my mother was very telepathic, and she was very in tune with things, so of course she would
Oh, yes.
have. And she did enjoy a glass of cognac.
Yeah, well, it was really neat the way it happened. It was very, very neat the way it happened. Well, there's been a lot of experiences with, especially, like I said before, the way the dimensions are opening up. More and more people are going to be having spirit and ghostly experiences, so I think people should start expecting to see a little bit more than they used to and hear a little bit more about it than they used to.
Yeah, unfortunately, like everything else, we've commercialized a lot of things.
Yeah,
You
that's
know.
true.
But with some of the new movies, and not all spirits are evil,
Oh, no.
With some of the new movies, I think they're trying to put everything in a humorous frame of mind, like Beetlejuice was
Oh, yes, that
was a
was
wonderful
funny.
movie.
That was funny. That was pretty cute.
And if you haven't seen Three Men and a Baby,
Yes.
it's pretty much such a beginning, the movie, no?
It's, well, after his mother comes, Ted Danson's mother comes, that's when he's trying to get her to take the baby. That's when the ghost shows up.
In the window.
In the window. And if you take it frame by frame, you can see him materialize in that window, which is really pretty awesome.
I believe it's also on Art Bell's webpage.
Probably.
And my webpage is listed at the end of the show, and you can sort of jump from there into the paranormal. There is a search engine, it's called Periscope, P-A-R-A-S-C-O-P-E. If you put the keyword in there, it has a whole archive of ghosts, the paranormal, conspiracies, and things like that. Pretty good footage then, on that.
Yeah. I guess Joan Rivers moved into an apartment where she had a ghost also.
That wasn't aware of that.
Yes, she did. And she started believing in the paranormal after that. And we used to hear that ghosts would never do harm to someone, but that's not true. So, I mean, they can be. Especially if they are afraid of someone or if they've died violently, they may,
When we was in that hotel in Florence, Spirit Wolf and I, she had, something was there that attempted to throw me down the stairs. I had a camera, and of course the flash didn't work half of the time, and it kept knocking the camera out of my hand. And then at one time, Spirit Wolf, she has a guide named
Chang.
And I was thinking, who was that? Because it was a language I didn't recognize.
Chang Lulin is his name. He's a spirit guide that has been with her for many years. He's the one that actually can get the ghosts to leave. And he speaks ancient Mandarin, which we have had that checked with linguists, and they said that's pretty close to it. And of course my sister has no clue what ancient Mandarin is. So Chang Lulin has showed up many times for her to help her, and he's a protector of hers and a guide. He's been spoken of by other psychics who say if someone has gone to my sister and Chang has talked to them, they call the people the children of Chang. And a lot of psychics have pointed out, you are the children of Chang Lulin. Well, he was very well known. I guess he was some kind of a master of the paranormal in his day.
But he was certainly there for me because
Yeah.
when, unfortunately, I couldn't show you that tape, but you can hear him in there, you know.
Yeah, he's very, very there when he's there. We used to smell the sandalwood incense when he would come. And her face would transfigure, and she'd get a little mustache here and a gray beard when he would channel through her. So
I've never seen that.
no,
But I know he was there for me that day, and then we talked to the townspeople, and there was almost everybody that had a story to tell about that.
oh yeah, there was someone with a lot of rage there at that hotel.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the town is kind of it's a beautiful little town, but it has prisons. I think there's 8 prisons surrounding it, so they have a lot of, the super maximum prison is there. It's where the people are kept underground, never see daylight. So there's some things going on there.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah. So in a way, we kind of had fun today, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
If you write us a postcard, if this is something that you would like to do more of, I can't promise to find any more clips, but as we talk to the public, people do have pictures. And if you have one, send it to us, and we'll share it, and you can tell your story. Because one of the things that we're wanting to do is to change the consciousness
Right.
as time goes on, and that's really necessary because the world is changing. So we just need to incorporate that. Would you agree?
I agree, definitely. Yeah.
Would you like to leave
Definitely.
the friends with a closing thought, maybe?
Well, I think what we've said, try to lose your fear of things. If we embrace every new experience as an experience and not worry about it so much, I think we'll get along a lot better with whatever happens.
Oh, yeah, one of the things when we was at the Florence Hotel, you should have really been there.
I know.
There was a 4-hour period I couldn't speak English, and I wear glasses for 20 years, and I had 20/20 vision. I couldn't see with my glasses. So they do weird things.
Yeah, someone took you over, obviously, for a while there.
Yeah, it was really nice not to have to,
Not to have to wear glasses.
And it's been a really nice day. It's not hailing.
Nope.
It's not snowing, so we're getting somewhere. And I think this week is going to go by real fast, and the sunshine is returning. So on a conscious level, let's all work on the weather and
Get it sunny and warm around
make
here
it the very
for a
best that
while.
we can.
Absolutely.
appreciate the flowers and put sunshine on your face, love in your heart, and humor in your, where should we put the humor?
All around us. How
All
about
around
that?
us. I've been
Yeah,
out of places
yeah.
to put it. So you just have a good laugh when you get up and a good laugh when you go to bed. And we shall see you next week. And thank you for joining us. And I hope our friend in the beginning shot did not upset you. Goodbye.